Hi, this video is going to cover the 4 foundations of mindfulness, specifically focusing on the 5 hindrances. So, the 4 foundations of mindfulness are found in the text, the selected texts at the back of your book. So, these are the selected texts from the Pali Canon. Pali was the language that the Buddha gave his teachings in. So, in the back of the text, this is actually where you get um, the teachings themselves, of course, translated from Pali into English. What you've been reading, the chapters, are Rahula's commentary on the teachings of the Buddha. So there you have this text called The 4 Foundations of Mindfulness. I'm going to briefly talk about the first 3 foundations, but I want to focus in this video on the 5 hindrances because I think that teaching is really helpful and beneficial. So the first foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of body. So when practicing mindfulness, some teachers define mindfulness as remembering. So it's the remembering that I'm in a body. So can I notice that I'm sitting? Can I feel myself sitting? So mindfulness is mindfulness of posture. Can I notice that I'm sitting upright, shoulders back, chin tucked? Can I notice the breath? Can I notice the in-breath as it's happening? Can I notice the out-breath as it's happening? And again and again. So mindfulness is just that practice of noticing and of noting what you notice. So the first foundation is body, so specifically thinking about the breath and the posture of the body. And posture can also be, if you're standing, to notice you're standing. If you're laying down, to notice you're laying down. So can you just notice that that's even happening? The second foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of feeling or feeling tones. In Buddhism, you've read this already a couple times, there's 3 feeling tones: pleasant, unpleasant, and neither unpleasant nor unpleasant, or neutral. So can I notice if the sensation I'm feeling in my body right now is pleasant, unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant? So it's just the noticing of the feeling tone. And it's not a labeling of, oh, and I like that or I don't like that, but just, oh, unpleasantness, pleasantness. Right now, there is neither pleasantness nor unpleasantness. The third foundation of mindfulness, and by the way, these are meant to be worked on progressively in a way because you could spend just years being mindful of body and breath. So in Pascal Auclair's paying attention to the nose, that's really where the practice starts. Paying attention to the nose, meaning paying attention to the breathing. So just finding an anchor in the present moment before really moving on to the other types of mindfulness. So the third foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of mind. So what is the mind like right now? So in this moment, if I were to remember to notice, is my mind right now scattered? Is my mind collected? Is it focused? Is it distracted? Is it lustful? Is it greedy? So it's really paying attention to what it's like to be in your mind right now. So if you think about what mindfulness is, thinking about the first 3, it's just what does it feel like to be in this mind and body right now? So the fourth foundation of mindfulness has a lot of things within it, but the 2 we'll focus on in this class are the 4 Noble Truths and the 5 Hindrances. So the fourth foundation is called mental objects, and so these are more the kind of intellectual things. So the 4 Noble Truths are the 4 truths in Buddhism, that human existence is characterized by suffering, what the source of that suffering is, the release from that suffering, and the path. So these mental objects are things we learn so that we can notice them or use them as a way of noticing something in our experience. So all of these are ways of noting your experience. In a way, picking something to focus on in order to practice that capacity to focus on something, to be mindful of something in the experience. So the 5 hindrances. The first thing you ought to ask yourself is the 5 hindrances to what? If something's a hindrance, if something's an obstacle, that it's an obstacle to something. And that too is to awakening, to being awake to reality itself, to nirvana, to seeing things as they are. So, if that's our ultimate aim, is to see things as they truly are, to experience the truth of reality, then the hindrances are what hinders us or blocks us or presents an obstacle to that. So the hindrances, there's 5 of them, and they're kind of come in pairs. So 1 and 2 are paired together, 3 and 4 are paired together, and then 5 is on its own. So the first and second are sense desire, and in the text this is anger, but translate that as aversion. It's a broader term. So sense desire says, this experience is okay, but it would be better if. Sense desire wants to add something to the experience, to enhance it somehow. So take the experience of watching this video right now. This experience is okay, but it would be better if I had a snack. This experience is okay, but it'd be better if I had something to drink. This experience is okay, but if I had a pillow, it would just be so much better. So rather than being in the experience as it is, we're craving something to make the experience better. I want something more than what is available in the present moment. So if awakening is to be with things as they are in the present moment, the first hindrance wants to add something to that present moment, to enhance it in some way. The second hindrance, aversion, is the opposite. There's something in this moment that I don't like, and so I push it away. I'm averse to it. This online lecture is okay, but it would be better if her voice was different. It will be better if the marker board were different, right? So it could be sense desire and aversion can happen kind of together, right? I don't like the visuals, and then I think of a way to make them better. This experience is okay, but God, I wish the fluorescent lights weren't so bright. So it's always, unlike sense desire, aversion is trying to push something out of the experience. I often think about the hindrances whenever I go to the movies. I'm watching a movie, really enjoying it, and I think to myself, oh, this is great. It'd be so much better if I had some Twizzlers, though. And sometimes there's not even a conscious thought, but it's the feeling of my hand reaching for my wallet to go and grab the Twizzlers. Aversion says, on the other hand, God, this experience would be better if those people would stop talking. So movie theaters for me are one of the most difficult places to practice this, which is to be in the present moment and to welcome everything about it and not push away any part of the experience, but just to be with it as it is. This is what it's like to be in this body right now. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor. So this is this feeling of sort of sluggishness or sleepiness. I often describe this as that kind of the feeling that your eyes just have a kind of curtain coming over them. You don't actually have to be asleep to fall into this hindrance, but you might be asleep. But you could just be sort of sluggish. So this is there's something about the present moment that I don't want to be with, and therefore I kind of shut off a little bit. I kind of let it fade out. Everything gets a little hazier, and I'm just a little bit sleepier. And so you might think about, like, of course, sometimes we need to nap. Sometimes we are just tired. But how often is it that napping is just a way to escape reality rather than because we're genuinely tired? The fourth hindrance is the opposite of this one, which is restlessness and worry. So if in the third hindrance the mind is sort of sluggish, in the fourth it's thinking about every other thing. So this arises when you're watching this video and you're like, okay, we're at 9 minutes now. How many more minutes? When's the next thing? Got to get to the next assignment. I need to finish this video so I can do the next thing in the module. So rather than being here with this experience, we're already thinking about the next experience that's to come. I've even had this experience of restlessness while doing a guided meditation. I'm wondering about what kind of bell is going to ring at the end, or what's going to happen at the end of the meditation, instead of just being there, just sitting quietly, just noticing my breath, just being with the present moment. I think about something else. And so in doing that, I'm elsewhere. The fifth hindrance is, I always think it's on its own. It doesn't have a buddy because it's the sneakiest and the most powerful, and that's doubt. Doubt is that voice that while you're sitting and doing the meditation practice, or you're listening to this lecture, or you're doing your assignments for the class, says, who do you think you are? What makes you think you can do this? It's that voice in our head that causes us to doubt our capacity to do the task at hand. And in the story of the Buddha's coming to be awake, you can think of that story as him going through the hindrances when he's being tempted by the demon Mara. And so Mara tempts the Buddha with sense desire, dancing and beautiful women and all of these things. So she goes through the different temptations, but sense desire in a way isn't as strong as doubt. So when Mara tempts the Buddha with doubt, then Mara says, who do you think you are? What makes you think you can be awake? And the Buddha plants his fingers into the ground and he says, it is my birthright. Meaning it is the birthright of all human beings to be awake. And the hindrances are one way of thinking about what is an obstacle to our awakening. So I encourage you in the coming days to do the meditation practices, to do the mindfulness activities of eating and meditating mindfully walking. And then notice, if you can, the hindrances as they come up, and just label them and allow them to pass away. Oh, sense desire is present. Aversion is present. But just to label it and allow it to pass. Not to beat yourself up about it, but just to say, oh, restlessness is present. And that's all that mindfulness is. It's just noticing when these arise, but also noticing when they pass away. Oh, that restlessness isn't here anymore. And noticing that they pass away is really important because we often think of our suffering as being permanent, but it's not, of course. Every experience is fleeting. So if you can get in touch with the fleeting nature of reality, then there can also be some liberation there, in that realization that this experience, however beautiful, however terrible, will also pass away.